and you couldn't move your account from it because they held on to all your assets and everything. So there's nothing to move anywhere else to continue that banking relation, to continue your business. So you were closed down, and because you're unable to move to do anything, you can't go, well, you can't go forward. So you're held there in limbo until you eventually, the debt grew and you're not able to think. As a matter of fact, FinSac has sold a number of my properties. And up till today, I have not yet received any thing in writing to show the accounts where what went to principal.
At the time of the takeover of your loan by FinSac at Horizon, what was your outstanding balance?
My outstanding balance at the time was over 100 million.
And you were servicing that loan?
Well, our loan wasn't really by service per se, like a monthly payment. It's by selling of units that go towards payments. And at this time of the takeover, we had sold at the Palermo, I think about 18 or 16 units. That up to today, we have not gotten any statement. Prior to that, we were getting every sale, you will get a statement from the bank and from the attorney to show you, you know, what was received and what was dispersed, and the bank will tell you what went to interest.
So that was discontinued?
That discontinued.
Yeah. So what was your client's experience, Mr. Levy, Jean-Marie de Zulme of Thermoplastics?
On the day that Richard Downer was appointed receiver and manager of Thermoplastics, the 9th of March, 1998. At the time Mr. Downer went out to the appointment to take over, we were sitting in the office of Jeff Cobham at NCB, talking about business going on and continuing. Shook hands, business as usual. Mr. Cobham and Mr. McFarlane had signed the appointment of receiver, had us in there to get John Desiree out of the office, out of his office. And we thought everything was going to be business as usual. There was no default on any loan. Of course, Mr. Downer took out a letter, standard letter by NCB's team in-house lawyer, making a demand at 3 o'clock to satisfy millions of dollars. The company had just finalized arrangements with the assistance of NCB to obtain a loan for $500,000 US from Jamaica Development Bank to clear 40-foot containers of raw material off the wharf, which were needed to produce goods. They had to go to NIBJ because NCB was broke at that time. It had no money, could not make the loan. They allowed, the company assigned millions of dollars of the proceeds of sale of goods. They had orders from gilt-edged companies, Red Stripe for crates, Matalons for pipes, telephone company for pipes, and so on. And it was assigned to be paid to NIBJ, and out of the proceeds of those orders, we would repay the loan of $500,000 US to NIBJ and interest. NCB would get payments of, within 6 months, of $500,000 US, and the company was getting 20% to cover its overhead expenses. It was receiver was appointed entirely politically. Dunbar McFarlane and Mr. Desiree has given evidence before the commission. A month after the appointment of Richard Downer, told him, there's nothing wrong with your business plan, there's nothing wrong with your finances, it's politics, it's above me. Political reasons put him in there. But you know, this heartlessness continues. I was flicking channels the other day and accidentally went to a channel which I don't usually watch and found myself watching a horror movie. I saw somebody who looked like Wicked Wanda cross-examining and laughing at a debtor who has lost everything, a Mr. Rose. That was coming out of the FinSac Commission. I mean, I couldn't watch it for very long because it was disgusting to see a professional, a so-called professional, looking at a man who has just given evidence that he's lost everything because of the high interest rates and all the other things that were imposed on him. Like my friend here, he wasn't necessarily a bad businessman, but when the interest rates imposed on the people by the government decisions went up to 90 and 100%, nobody can pay that. And the government has been totally unsympathetic, and I say that for the past and the present government. There's no assistance being given by the present government. They continue to reap the benefits of the collections being made by FinSAC and Jamaican Redevelopment Foundation.
Marshall Hall,
Sir.
the lessons from what we're hearing and the experience of the mid-1990s?
Well, I think there's first of all the underlying problem of the very, very dazzlingly high interest rates of that period, and one just has to look at them in relation to what was happening in the rest of the Caribbean and the rest of the world to realize that at interest rates of 100%, you know, it's going to be very, very hard.
Impossible.
To service
unless you
your
run
loan.
an illegal operation.
And, you know, you would have to be able to just pay it out instantly and come out. And so I think that period dramatizes what we should never, ever go into again, those kinds of interest rates. Having said that, though, there is a broader principle of businesses, their exposure, and a recognition that what we need is to have more entrepreneurs, more people going into business, more people venturing in. We don't have a venture capital regime of any kind in Jamaica, and therefore when people go into business, it is their own savings, their assets that oftentimes allows them to enter. And therefore when you borrow as a company, the company would normally have, because it's a company, its liabilities are limited to the assets of the company. The financial institution routinely says, no, hold on a minute, your assets are not good enough, particularly if you're a small and medium-sized entity, and therefore you have to provide guarantee in the form of your house, in the form of your other assets, and those guarantees are often unlimited. When you combine an unlimited guarantee regime with the very high interest rates, then of course you have fire and destruction takes place. But forgetting FinSAC for a moment, if we just recognize that in a society like ours where we need to have new entrepreneurs daily, then those entrepreneurs need to be protected by the principle of the unlimited guarantee that a company has. When you go outside that and have a guarantor with no limit on the liability of the guarantor, then even when the Bank of Jamaica says you can no longer record that loan in your assets, and so it is taken out of the bank's assets, let's say, the bank, however, still has recourse to collect from the guarantor. And that, of course, is a problem. And so we have two issues. One is the unlimited guarantee of the guarantor, and then the ability of the institution to charge interest rates which have nothing to do with what has happened to the particular business, but has to do with what has happened to the economy, as was said earlier. But when all of those things happen...
Let me bring in Dr. Thomas. There is this popular thing in Jamaica that people who go into business, legitimate businesses, take the risks of employing people, take the risk involved in terms of security, take the risk of the vagaries of public policy that's shifting and turning overnight, yeah? That when they go under, they're stigmatized, yeah? That they see him fail in business, yeah? To be shunted away in disgrace. How do we fix that? Do we fix it?
Well, it is definitely something that needs to be fixed. The problem you're speaking to is that property rights are not always well allocated. And we go back to Professor Hall's point about this unlimited guarantee. It creates a moral hazard problem. If you have full insurance, then you have no reason to behave in an appropriate fashion to avoid or prevent the loss. So when we have people having unrestricted guarantees, this is what happens. But I'll turn a little bit. Now, the entrepreneur that is stigmatized, what you will realize and you will learn is that successful entrepreneurs, because in my mind, and I think it should be the case in many people's mind, a failure is not about what happens to you, but what you do with what happens to you should be more interesting. The people who have been successful in business, it is not the case that they've never taken hits. So you have to fall down and get back up and begin to creep and walk again until you can again run. So I don't think we should be stigmatized, and none of us who have had failures in business should really feel as though We are failures because we have had.
But the society make you feel
the society
that
does,
way.
but we have to continue to work and fight through this situation, because it is only this way that we will continue to develop. So what we need are the proper institutions to support business people and companies, and it would be great too if we had the venture capital framework set up so that people are protected, because some of the times it is not only the case that you're stigmatized, but if in fact your personal assets are at jeopardy when your business fails.